Hello, everyone. My name is Yernar, and welcome to my podcast. It is that time of year again. The air is getting colder, the year is winding down, and the industry is buzzing with that specific frantic energy that only comes in December. We are standing right at the finish line of 2025, and what a year it has been. We have had the massive AAA sequels. We have had the open world giants that demand 300 hours of your life. And we have had the usual suspects dominating the headlines. But today, I don't want to talk about the games that were made by thousands of people in glass skyscrapers. I don't want to talk about the franchises that have been running since the 90s. Today, I want to talk about a miracle. I want to talk about the game that didn't just surprise me, but completely fundamentally changed how I look at this medium. I am talking, of course, about Clair Obscur Expedition 33. If you have been listening to me for a while, you know I love games, I love the stories, the mechanics, the worlds, but it is rare, it is so incredibly rare that a game comes along and manages to feel nostalgic and completely revolutionary at the exact same time. This is a game that feels like it fell out of a different timeline, a timeline where turn based games never went out of style, but instead just kept getting more beautiful, more reactive, and more heartbreaking. I want to start at the beginning, not the development history, we will get to that, because that story is insane in its own right. I want to start where the game starts, the prologue. If you haven't played it yet, I am going to try to dance around the biggest spoilers, but we need to talk about the premise because it is the engine that drives this entire experience. The world of Expedition 33 is defined by one singular terrifying entity, the Paintress. She is this monolithic godlike figure, and every year she wakes up. She paints a number on her canvas. And this is the part that just chills my blood every time I think about it. Whatever number she paints, everyone of that age simply ceases to exist. They turn to smoke. They are erased. Erased is the word the game uses. The Gomage. The game begins in the city of Lumiere, and the art direction here is just staggering. It's this Belle Epoque, late 19th century French aesthetic. It's not your typical medieval fantasy with dragons and knights. It's cobblestones and gas lamps and waistcoats and intricate ironwork. It feels grounded, it feels human, but there is this surreal darkness hanging over everything. In the prologue, you are introduced to the members of Expedition 33, and the number 33 isn't just a cool title, it signifies that the paintress is about to paint the number 33. That means everyone who is 33 years old is going to die tomorrow. The prologue takes place on the eve of their departure. It is their last day in the city, their last day of normalcy before they march out to what is essentially a suicide mission to kill the paintress and break the cycle. Most games would start this with a big action set piece, right? Explosions, screaming, instant high stakes. But Sandfall Interactive did something so much smarter. They started with a festival. The city is celebrating the expedition. There are fireworks, there is music, there are people drinking and laughing. But as you walk through these streets, as Gustav, one of the main characters, you can feel the tension underneath the joy. It is this desperate, frantic happiness. People are cheering for you, but they are also looking at you like you are already ghosts. Because 32 expeditions have gone before you, none of them came back. There is a moment in the prologue that really stuck with me. You are walking through the preparations and you see the families. You see the people who are 33 years old saying their goodbyes or trying to pretend like everything is fine. The writing is so subtle here. It doesn't scream at you, it just lets you sit in the tragedy of it. The prologue does this incredible job of establishing the weight of the world. You understand, without a 10-minute exposition dump, exactly what is at stake. You aren't just saving the world in the abstract sense, you are saving these specific people, these faces you pass in the street, who are terrified that tomorrow is their last day on earth. And then, when the action finally starts, when you get that first taste of the combat in the prologue, it hits you. This isn't just a story game. This is a game that feels incredible to play. But we will get to the gameplay mechanics later. I want to linger on the atmosphere for a second because you cannot talk about the atmosphere of Expedition 33 without talking about the music. Let's shift gears and talk about the soundtrack. I truly believe that the score for this game is going to go down in history as one of the greats. It is right up there with Final Fantasy, with Nier Automata, with Persona. It is haunting, it is melodic, it has this French romanticism to it, but with a dark, modern edge. But the story behind the music is even better than the music itself. The composer is a man named Laurent Testard. Now, before this game, you probably had never heard that name. He wasn't a Hollywood composer. He wasn't an industry veteran with a massive portfolio. He was a guitar teacher, just a regular guy teaching guitar who had a passion for video game music. The story goes that the developers at Sandfall were looking for a specific sound. They didn't want the generic orchestral epicness that every other AAA game has. They wanted something with soul, something intimate, and Guillaume Broche, the creative director, was trolling through forums. He was looking on SoundCloud and he found Lorian. He found this guy's personal page where he was uploading his own compositions just for the love of it. Can you imagine that email? You're sitting there teaching guitar scales to teenagers, posting your tracks online, hoping for a few likes, and you get an email from a director saying, "Hey, I love your sound. I'm making this massive RPG. Do you want to score it?" It is a Cinderella story, and you can hear that hunger in the music. You can hear that this isn't just a job for him, it is his soul being poured into every single note. There is a track that plays during the prologue, right when the reality of the expedition sets in. It starts with a solo cello, I think, or maybe a viola, and it is so lonely. And then the vocals come in. It is not big and bombastic, it is quiet, it is sad, and it perfectly captures that feeling of Clair Obscur, light and dark, the beauty of the city, and the darkness of the death that is coming. Laurent Tester didn't just write background music, he wrote the emotional heartbeat of the game. I honestly think that without his specific voice, without that SoundCloud discovery, the game would have lost 50% of its emotional impact. It is a testament to the fact that talent is everywhere. You just have to look for it. You have to be willing to look outside the established circles. And that brings me to the team itself, Sandfall Interactive. When you look at Expedition 33, when you see the graphical fidelity, the facial animations, the particle effects in Unreal Engine 5, the sheer scale of the environments, you assume this was made by a team of 500 people. You assume there is a massive Ubisoft or EA logo on the building, but there isn't. The team is tiny, and the number is almost poetic. The core team is reported to be around 33 people, 33 developers making Expedition 33. I know they had outsourcing support, like all studios do, but the creative core, the people in the room making the decisions, was that small group. This is fundamentally an indie game. I know it looks like a AAA blockbuster. It is priced like a premium game, but the spirit, the team structure, the budget constraints, it is indie through and through. and that is why I think it resonates so much. We have spent the last few years watching the AAA industry kind of implode. We have seen games that cost $300 million dollars to make and they come out feeling sterile. They feel like they were designed by a committee in a boardroom to maximize engagement metrics. They are bloated with endless fetch quests and microtransactions and live service elements that nobody asked for. And then here comes Sandfall, a team of roughly 30 people in France. And they had the audacity to say, we are going to make a turn based RPG, we are going to make it linear, we are not going to make it an open world with 1,000 icons on the map. We are going to focus on a tight 30 to 40-hour story, and we are going to make it look better than the games with 10 times our budget. It is the focus that makes the difference. Because the team was small, everyone had to be on the same page. There is a singular artistic vision here. You can feel it. You don't get the sense that the level designers were fighting with the writers or that the combat designers didn't talk to the artists. It all feels cohesive. It feels like a handcrafted object. There is a lesson here for the entire industry. Sandfall proved that you don't need 1,000 people to make a masterpiece. In fact, having 1,000 people might be the problem. When you have a team of 33, you have agility, you have passion. If someone has a crazy idea, they can just turn around and tell the director. They don't have to go through 6 layers of middle management. That agility is what allowed them to create a combat system that feels so fresh. And speaking of that combat system, this is a huge part of why I believe Clair Obscur Expedition 33 deserves to be the game of the year for 2025. For years, people have been saying turn based combat is dead. They say it is boring. They say modern audiences don't have the patience for it. Final Fantasy moved away from it. The biggest RPGs became action games. And look, I love action games, but there is a strategy to turn based combat that you just can't replicate in real time. Sandfall looked at this problem and said, why do we have to choose? The reactive turn based system in this game is a revelation. It is the perfect marriage of old school strategy and modern reflex based action. On your turn, you have all the time in the world. You can plan your moves, choose your spells, look at the turn order. It is tactical, it is chess, but when the enemy attacks, you aren't just watching a cutscene and taking damage, you are active. You have to parry, you have to dodge, you have to jump over sweep attacks. It reminds me a lot of games like Paper Mario or Sea of Stars, but dialed up to 11. The parry windows are tight, it feels like Sekiro. When you land a perfect parry, the sound design is crunchy and satisfying, and you open up the enemy for a counterattack. It keeps you engaged every single second. You can never put the controller down and look at your phone. You have to be present. This system solves the biggest problem of turn based games, which is the passivity. In Expedition 33, you are always playing, but it also solves the problem of action games, which can sometimes just become button mashers. Here, you still need the strategy. You still need to manage your resources, your cooldowns, your elemental weaknesses. It is the best of both worlds. And it is not just the mechanics, it is the style. The UI in this game is gorgeous. It is sleek, minimal, but stylish. The camera work during the battles is dynamic. It zooms in for the big hits, pans out for the tactical view. It feels cinematic in a way that turn based games rarely do. I want to circle back to the narrative for a moment because for a game to be game of the year, it has to have heart, it has to make you feel something, and Expedition 33 broke me. I am not going to spoil the ending, obviously, but the journey of these characters is so raw. You have Gustav, who is this weary, determined leader. He has seen too much. You have Mael, who represents the younger generation, the hope that maybe this time it will be different. The way they interact the banter, the arguments, the moments of quiet around the campfire, it feels real. The writing doesn't shy away from the trauma they are carrying. They are walking toward their deaths. They know the odds, and yet they keep walking. There is a theme in this game about legacy, about what we leave behind. The paintress erases people, she erases history, and the expedition is fighting to preserve memory, to say, we were here, we mattered. It is such a powerful metaphor for art itself. We create things, games, music, paintings, because we don't want to be erased. We want to leave a mark. And in a meta sense, that is exactly what Sandfall Interactive has done. They are a new studio. This is their debut game. They could have been erased, they could have been ignored, they could have been just another indie game that launched and disappeared on Steam. But they fought for their vision. They poured everything they had into this project, and they created something that will be remembered. When I look at the other contenders for Game of the Year in 2025, they are great games. Don't get me wrong. The technical achievements are there, the fun factor is there, but none of them have the soul of Expedition 33. None of them have that underdog spirit. There is something special about playing a game where you can feel the fingerprints of the creators. You can feel that Lorien Tested sat in his room and cried while writing that cello melody. You can feel that the animators obsessed over the way the fabric of the codes moves in the wind. You can feel that the writers argued over the dialogue to make sure it felt true. It is a game that respects the player. It doesn't waste your time. It doesn't treat you like a wallet to be milked. It gives you a complete, polished, emotionally resonant experience from start to finish. And in 2025, that is the most revolutionary thing a developer can do. We often talk about indie and AAA as these two separate buckets. You have the pixel art platformers in one bucket and the $100 million open worlds in the other. Expedition 33 smashes those buckets. It creates a new category. The AAA game, maybe, or just a video game. A video game that remembers that games are supposed to be art. I think about the industry right now. I think about the layoffs we have seen. I think about the studios closing down. It is a scary time to be a developer. It is a scary time to be a fan, watching the things you love get cancelled. And then a game like this comes along. A game that proves that creativity is still alive, that you can still take risks, that you can still make a turn based RPG in the year 2025 and sell millions of copies if you just make it good, if you make it with passion. That is why it deserves Game of the Year. Not just because the graphics are pretty, though they are stunning, not just because the combat is fun, though it is addictive, but because it represents the best possible future for this industry. A future where small teams can make big games, a future where new talent like Lauren Tested can be discovered and given a stage, a future where we value artistic vision over market trends. I truly believe that 10 years from now, we will look back at 2025 and we won't be talking about the 15th sequel to a shooter franchise. We will be talking about Clair Obscur Expedition 33. We will be talking about the Paintress. We will be humming that soundtrack. If you haven't played it yet, please do yourself a favor. Go download it, put on a good pair of headphones, turn off the lights, and let yourself get lost in Lumiere. Let yourself be swept up in the expedition. It is a shorter experience than some of the other RPGs out there, maybe 30 hours if you really take your time, but those 30 hours will stay with you longer than 300 hours of filler content ever could. It is a masterpiece. It is a triumph. And it is, without a shadow of a doubt, my game of the year. Thank you so much for listening. I know I rambled a bit, but this game just gets me fired up. I would love to hear what you guys think. Did the combat click for you? Did the story break your heart like it broke mine? Let me know in the comments or shoot me a message. Until next time, keep playing, keep supporting indie devs, and I will see you on the next expedition. Goodbye.